Max, a cheerful and clumsy Labrador with boundless energy, was the undisputed king of the household. His day was usually a predictable routine of naps on the couch, enthusiastic tail wags when anyone entered the room, and the occasional romp in the backyard. Life was simple, peaceful, and perfectly tailored to Max's happy-go-lucky nature. But all that changed the moment the squeaky toy arrived. It started on a breezy Saturday morning when Max's human Emma came bounding through, the front door carrying a small, brightly wrapped package. Max's nose twitched at the unfamiliar scent as he hurried toward her, tail wagging like a flag in a hurricane. "Look what I got for you, Max," Emma exclaimed, setting the package down on the floor with a gentle thump. Max's ears perked up, and he barked excitedly, circling the box as if it were a pile of treasure. Emma peeled back the wrapping paper to reveal a vibrant blue rubber toy shaped like a bone, with a tiny squeaker nestled inside. The moment Emma squeezed it, a high-pitched squeak filled the room, and Max's eyes went wide with fascination. Without hesitation, Max lunged at the toy, his jaws closing around it with a victorious chomp. The squeaker emitted another sharp squeak, and Max's tail wagged so hard it almost knocked the coffee table over. For the rest of the day, Max barely left the toy's side. He carried it everywhere, dropping it at Emma's feet with pleading eyes and demanding playtime. When Emma tossed it across the living room, Max would sprint after it like a rocket, return triumphantly, and start the cycle again. The toy's relentless squeak was music to Max's ears, but there was one problem no one expected. Whiskers. Whiskers was the household's resident feline, an elegant, aloof tabby with sharp green eyes and a suspicious nature. She prided herself on ignoring the dogs, humans, and their noisy habits. Until now. The squeaky toy, it seemed, had a magnetic pull that even Whiskers couldn't resist. One afternoon, while Max was napping on the couch with the toy nestled between his paws, Whiskers silently slinked into the living room. She patted over and gave the blue bone a tentative sniff. Then, with a delicate swipe of her paw, she sent it skittering across the floor. Max's ears twitched. His eyes popped open. The chase was on. Max bounded after the toy, only to find Whiskers batting it around with surprising speed and agility. She darted just out of reach, eyes gleaming with mischief. "Hey, that's mine!" Max barked, but Whiskers just flicked her tail and meowed as if saying, "Catch me if you can." For the next hour, the living room became a battlefield of squeaks, barks, and the occasional meow. Max would grab the toy, only to have Whiskers snatch it away with lightning-fast reflexes. Emma and the rest of the family watched with amused smiles, never quite sure who would win the escalating war over the squeaky bone. By evening, Max was exhausted but determined. He curled up in his bed, clutching the toy protectively. Whiskers, curled on the windowsill, glanced over and gave a satisfied purr. One thing was certain. The squeaky toy had brought a new, hilarious rivalry to the household, and Max was ready to defend his prize, no matter what. The next morning dawned bright and clear, but inside the cozy household, a new kind of battle was brewing. Max woke up early, stretching his big paws and yawning widely. The blue, squeaky bone was still nestled by his side, a comforting reminder of yesterday's victory. Or so he thought. Max trotted into the living room, eyes scanning for his prized possession. But instead of seeing the familiar blue toy where he left it, he spotted something far more unsettling. Whiskers, the usually aloof tabby, was sitting smugly in the middle of the rug with the squeaky bone firmly gripped between her paws. Max's ears twitched in disbelief. "Hey, that's my toy!" he barked, inching closer with a low growl. Whiskers looked up lazily, her emerald eyes sparkling with mischief. "Is it?" she purred, before giving the toy a teasing squeeze that sent out a loud, sharp squeak. Max jumped back with a startled yip. The sound was different when it came from Whiskers, less like a friendly invitation and more like a challenge. From that moment, the daily dynamics of the house changed drastically. No longer was the squeaky bone a simple plaything. It had become a coveted trophy, the center of a rivalry that neither Max nor Whiskers was willing to let go of. Emma, the family's human, watched the escalating antics with equal parts amusement and exasperation. "You two are impossible," she sighed one morning as Max barked and Whiskers meowed loudly at each other across the room. "Just share it, please?" But sharing was a concept neither pet was ready to entertain. Max spent his mornings patrolling the living room, keeping a close eye on the toy. He'd lie on the floor with the bone between his paws, eyes narrowing whenever Whiskers approached. Whiskers, for her part, perfected the art of subtle sneaking. She'd stalk the edges of the room, calculating the perfect moment to dart in and swipe the toy away before Max could react. One afternoon, the household witnessed the first real showdown. Max was dozing peacefully on the couch, toy resting beside him. Whiskers crept silently, almost invisible as she edged closer to the prize. Suddenly, with a lightning-fast pounce, she grabbed the toy and dashed under the coffee table. Max leapt up with a growl and chased after her, but Whiskers was quick, zigzagging between furniture legs and darting into tiny hiding spots. The squeak of the toy echoed through the room like a battle cry. Emma and the other family members chuckled from the kitchen doorway. "It's like watching a live-action cartoon," Emma said, wiping tears from her eyes as Max lunged and missed. Again. After several minutes of back-and-forth chase, the squeaky toy ended up tossed behind a couch cushion, and both Max and Whiskers panted heavily, temporarily pausing the duel. But the tension lingered. Whiskers was no longer content to watch from the sidelines. She had become a worthy rival, clever and mischievous in ways Max hadn't anticipated. Max's obsession only grew stronger. He began carrying the squeaky toy everywhere. In the yard, during meals, even while trying to sneak a nap. Whiskers, ever resourceful, started collecting little trinkets to trade for the toy's temporary custody, a feather here, a crumpled piece of paper there. One day, Emma found the two of them locked. In a standoff in the hallway, the squeaky bone held firmly between them. Whiskers hissed softly while Max growled, their eyes locked in a fierce contest of wills. Okay, Emma laughed, stepping between them. "Enough rivalry for one day." But Max and Whiskers paid no attention. Their focus was entirely on the squeaky toy, the source of their newfound and unexpectedly entertaining battle for supremacy. As the days went by, it became clear the rivalry was no longer just about a toy. It was a contest of wits, patience, and determination. Max, the big, enthusiastic dog, had to learn patience and cleverness. Whiskers, the graceful cat, had to embrace a more playful side. The house buzzed with the sounds of squeaks, barks, and occasional meows, and the humans secretly hoped this rivalry would never end, because for all the chaos, it was the most fun the house had seen in a long time. The war for the squeaky toy had officially entered a new and dangerous phase. Max, the lovable but not-so-subtle Labrador, had become an expert at guarding his prize. Every day he patrolled the living room like a four-legged security guard, his eyes sharp and his ears alert to even the slightest hint of danger. But Whiskers, the cunning tabby with the heart of a stealthy ninja, was far from defeated. She had been quietly plotting the ultimate heist. It started with careful observation. Whiskers watched Max's patterns, noting his favorite nap spots, the times when he was distracted by the smell of dinner, or when Emma left the house for errands. Then, under the cover of a particularly dull afternoon, she made her move. Max had just settled down on his favorite rug, the blue, squeaky bone clutched between his paws. His eyelids were heavy, and the rhythmic squeaks from the toy as he pressed it absently seemed to lull him toward a nap. Whiskers crept closer. Her movements were silent and calculated, a shadow slipping between furniture legs and under chairs. Her green eyes glinted with determination. With a lightning-fast swipe, she snatched the toy from Max's grip and darted toward the hallway, squeaking the bone loudly as she ran. Max's eyes snapped open. "Hey, that's mine!" he barked, leaping to his feet in hot pursuit. The chase was on. Whiskers zipped through the house, squeaky bone in mouth, weaving between table legs and around chairs. Max was fast but bulky, occasionally crashing into furniture in his frantic pursuit. Whiskers, small and nimble, darted effortlessly through tight spaces. The humans looked on from the kitchen, stifling laughter. "Look at them go!" Emma exclaimed, dodging a crashing Max who had just barreled past. But the chase wasn't just about speed, it was a battle of wits. Max quickly realized brute force wouldn't win the day. He stopped and waited by the staircase, knowing Whiskers couldn't resist the small hiding nook under the steps. Sure enough, moments later, Whiskers popped her head out, squeaky bone clenched tightly. "Gotcha!" Max barked, lunging forward. But Whiskers dropped the toy and dashed behind the couch, leaving Max to catch the blue bone. Victory was short-lived. Whiskers emerged from her hiding spot, eyes gleaming mischievously, ready to try again. Over the next few days, the household became a battlefield of clever tricks and narrow escapes. Whiskers learned to hide the toy in new places, inside a shoe, beneath a pile of laundry, even atop the bookshelf, a feat Max could only admire from below. Max developed countermeasures, guarding the laundry basket, pawing at shoes, and even sleeping with one eye open. One morning, Emma found Max sitting proudly on the porch steps, the blue squeaky bone wedged carefully between his front paws. "Good boy, Max," she said, reaching down to pet him. "You're so protective of that toy." Max wagged his tail, but kept his eyes on the doorway, alert for any sign of Whiskers. Meanwhile, inside the house, Whiskers plotted her next big move. She assembled a small team of neighborhood cats, just a few curious onlookers who were more interested in snacks than espionage. But it gave her an air of importance. The great squeaky heist, as Whiskers dubbed it in her feline mind, was nearly ready. On the chosen day, Whiskers made her move while Emma was distracted baking cookies in the kitchen. With the precision of a professional thief, she slipped inside, eyes fixed on the prize. She waited until Max was busy sniffing at a flower pot in the garden, then darted inside, snatched the squeaky bone, and dashed out the doggy door. Max barked furiously, racing after her, but the blue toy was already disappearing into the neighborhood. Bushes. The chase extended beyond the yard now, with Max barking and Whiskers darting through hedges and over fences. The humans watched in amazement as the usually calm household pets turned into a dynamic duo of chaos. Eventually, Max cornered Whiskers near the old oak tree. "Give it back," Max pleaded, panting. Whiskers looked up, eyes gleaming with triumph. "Only if you can catch me," she teased, squeaking the toy loudly one last time before dropping it at Max's feet. Max collapsed with relief, grabbing the toy and giving it a victorious squeeze. From that day on, the great squeaky heist became legendary in the neighborhood. A tale told with laughter about the dog and the cat who waged war over a simple squeaky toy, but secretly enjoyed every moment of it. The war over the squeaky toy had been going on for weeks now, and things had reached a crescendo of chaos that even the humans couldn't ignore. Max, the exuberant Labrador, and Whiskers, the clever tabby cat, had transformed the once peaceful household into a battleground filled with squeaks, barks, meows, and a trail of upturned furniture. The squeaky toy, their prize and obsession, had become a source of endless amusement for the pets, but a serious source of noise and disruption for the family. Emma, Max's owner, was growing weary. "That toy has got to go," she muttered one evening after nearly tripping over Whiskers, who darted past clutching the blue bone. Max and Whiskers exchanged worried glances. The threat was real. The humans might confiscate the toy once and for all. That night, as the house settled into silence, the two rivals found themselves unexpectedly face to face near the fireplace. Max lay on his side, ears drooping. Whiskers sat upright, tail twitching thoughtfully. "We can't let them take it," Max said softly, the usual barking tone replaced by something more serious. Whiskers nodded. "Agreed. But how?" "They're the ones who keep it away when they're tired of our noise." A silent understanding passed between them. For once, their rivalry would take a backseat to a common goal, protecting the squeaky toy from the humans. The next morning, Emma awoke to a suspiciously quiet house. No squeaks, no barking, no meowing. She tiptoed to the living room and found it eerily empty. The blue squeaky toy was nowhere to be found. Max was hiding under the dining table, ears flattened. Whiskers peeked from behind a curtain, eyes wide. Emma's eyes narrowed. "Where is it?" she demanded, suspecting the worst. Max and Whiskers exchanged a secret glance and, in a rare show of cooperation, silently led Emma on a wild goose chase through the house. Max darting into the garden, Whiskers disappearing through the cat door. The humans searched high and low, but the toy was nowhere to be found. It was then that Emma realized what had happened. Max and Whiskers had teamed up to hide the squeaky toy, and the hiding spot was genius. Deep in the backyard, beneath a pile of leaves and sticks, Max and Whiskers had buried the toy, guarding it like treasure. Every time a human got close, they worked together, Max barking to distract, Whiskers dashing out to steal attention. The humans were baffled but impressed by their pet's newfound teamwork. Days passed, and the battle to keep the squeaky toy safe continued. Max and Whiskers developed a silent language of signals, a tail twitch here, a bark there, to coordinate their efforts. When Max took a nap, Whiskers stood guard, and vice versa. The household, once divided by the rivalry, was now united by a secret alliance. But the humans weren't about to give up so easily. Emma decided to negotiate peace by introducing new toys: Squeaky, balls, rubber rings, and even a plush mouse for Whiskers. The hope was that sharing new playthings would calm the intense obsession. At first, the plan seemed to work. Max was interested in a new red ball, and Whiskers batted a stuffed mouse around the living room. But the blue squeaky bone remained the true prize, the symbol of their alliance and friendship. One evening, as the family sat around the fireplace, Max and Whiskers curled up side by side, the blue toy resting safely between them. They had discovered that sometimes the greatest victories came not from rivalry but from unexpected teamwork and a little bit of cleverness. And the squeaky toy? Well, it had never been squeakier. The household had transformed dramatically since the arrival of the infamous blue squeaky bone. What had begun as a simple plaything had sparked a full-blown rivalry between Max, the ever-enthusiastic Labrador, and Whiskers, the cunning tabby cat. Yet after weeks of chasing, stealing, and guarding, a surprising alliance had blossomed, fueled by a shared mission to keep their treasured toy safe from human confiscation. Emma and the rest of the family, though entertained by the antics, had grown exhausted by the daily noise and chaos. After several sleepless nights and a few near trips over darting paws and swishing tails, Emma finally decided to intervene. One bright morning, she gathered Max and Whiskers in the living room with an armful of brand new toys: a bright red rubber ball for Max, a soft plush mouse for Whiskers, and a squeaky rubber ring for both of them to share. "There, you each get your own," Emma announced cheerfully, setting the toys down on the floor. Max's eyes sparkled as he sniffed the red ball and gave it a tentative squeak. Whiskers sniffed the plush mouse with polite curiosity, but quickly swatted it across the room with her usual feline flair. The new toys were fun, no doubt about it. Max rolled the ball enthusiastically, squeaking it with joy. Whiskers occasionally batted the plush mouse around, especially when she wanted attention. But when the blue squeaky bone made its appearance, carefully retrieved from the backyard hiding spot, both pets paused and looked at it as if seeing an old friend. Max carefully picked it up, his tail wagging gently. Whiskers approached, rubbing against the toy, her eyes softening. It wasn't just a toy anymore, it was the heart of their shared adventures, the symbol of rivalry turned friendship. Surprisingly, instead of reigniting old battles, something unexpected happened. Max dropped the squeaky bone in front of Whiskers and gave a soft bark that sounded almost like an invitation. Whiskers purred in response, nudging the toy toward Max. For the first time, the two played together, not chasing or stealing, but taking turns squeaking and batting the toy in a kind of tentative peace treaty. Emma watched with a smile. "Looks like you two have figured it out." From that day on, the squeaky toy became a shared treasure, a symbol of friendship and compromise. Max and Whiskers still had their moments of playful rivalry, but mostly, they enjoyed each other's company and the many toys that now filled their home. Even the humans noticed the change. The house was quieter, the furniture intact, and laughter more frequent. Max still barked happily. Whiskers still meowed her sassy meows, but now their voices blended together in a harmonious household chorus. As the sun set behind the window, Max and Whiskers curled up side by side. The blue, squeaky bone nestled between them. Their eyes grew heavy, and the peaceful rhythm of their breathing filled the room. In the end, the squeaky toy wasn't just a source of chaos or competition. It was the thread that wove a dog and a cat into unlikely friends, and that was the best squeak anyone could ever ask for.